2025 was included in a list of meetings that was advertised in the Courier on January 9th, 2025, and as a teleconference was noticed on the official Dunellen website on July 4th, 2025, and on the public bulletin board on North Avenue on July 4th, 2025, and has remained continuously posted as the required notice. Mayor Salento,
Present.
Council President Sigmund,
Here.
Albertson,
Here.
Lamb,
Here.
Rios,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
and Mr. Vandermark.
Here.
Okay. Before we move on to item number 3 on the agenda, I just want to take a moment to recap about what transpired over the 4th of July weekend. So as power has now been fully restored across the borough, from what we understand from PSE&G, correct, Mr. Miller? Okay. I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the storm that hit our area on the evening of July 3rd. The storm caused significant damage, downed trees, power outages, displaced families, and left approximately 2,200 residents without electricity on the first night. That was Dunellen alone. I believe it was upward of over 40,000 in the region. In true spirit of Dunellen, our community came together like it always has, with neighbors checking on neighbors and family and friends supporting one another. I'd like to thank our Office of Emergency Management, led by our OEM coordinator, Homer Mosley, our fire department, led by Chief Bill Scott, you're usually over there, our police department, led by Chief Smith, rescue squad, led by Chief Best, and the Department of Public Works, led by Rich Herkert and Alex Miller, for their incredible efforts. They all worked around the clock to keep our residents safe, provide timely updates, and begin the cleanup process throughout the town immediately. I also want to thank PSE&G for getting crews out to Dunellen quickly to start restoring power. I'm grateful to our partnership with the Dunellen School District, which opened up the Dunellen High School cafeteria as a shelter for our residents in need, basically immediately. I extend thanks to the governor for checking in on us, Senator John Bramnick for offering his support as well, and to Assemblywoman Michelle Matsakoudas for her continued outreach. To our residents, I thank you for your patience, strength, and unwavering support of one another. There is still work to be done over the next couple of weeks to clean up storm debris and repair damages, but I have no doubt that we will all move forward together. Lastly, I'd like to take a moment to remember the 3 individuals in the neighboring towns who tragically lost their lives as a result of our storm. Our hearts and prayers go out to their families and friends in the communities during this difficult time. So let's just have a moment of silence for them, and also our crossing guard, Victoria, who passed away over the weekend too. Not related to the storm, though. Okay, thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda is presentations. We have 2 this evening. First up is the 4th round Fair Share Housing Plan, and we have Dan from DMR Architects. I believe he's joining us virtually.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for having me tonight. So I'm going to give a disclaimer before this presentation. So Dan Halbin, the Affordable Housing Planner for Dunellen. I prepared this plan as an employee of DMR Architects. As of today, I'm actually with TNM Associates. Due to the transition, we don't have a updated presentation, but the material is still pertinent to tonight's meeting. So you may all be aware that on June 23rd, the date on this presentation covered, the Dunellen Planning Board adopted the 4th round housing element and fair share plan that I'm discussing tonight. And typically what comes next after the planning board adopts is that the governing body of the municipality is supposed to take certain actions that show a commitment to implementing the affordable housing plan. And that includes adopting a resolution endorsing the housing plan, a resolution approving a spending plan, which I will explain further down the line, and a resolution committing to funding any portions of the spending of the affordable housing plan that cannot be covered by affordable housing trust funds. So please go to the next slide. So, a little bit of history for everybody. Affordable housing has been the law in New Jersey since 1975, when the New Jersey Supreme Court decided in a case called Mount Laurel 1 that every uh, municipality in the state has a constitutional obligation to create an opportunity for affordable housing and to accommodate the growth necessary to provide for affordable housing, regardless of whether the town is big, small, growing, slowly, quickly. Um, in 1985, the state legislature passed the Fair Housing Act, which codified the Supreme Court's decision, and it created a body called COA. They were responsible for making the rules and enforcing the rules for determining how many affordable housing units every town had to create, and how those units could be created. And the act created a mechanism to penalize towns that did not comply with the Fair Housing Act with something called exclusionary zoning or builder's remedy. And that is that if a town does not comply with the rules in the Fair Housing Act, rules established by COA at that time, a builder could bring a town to court, tell a judge, hey, this town is not providing their fair share of affordable housing. Allow me to exceed um, within the confines of the state law the zoning that is on the zoning that is in place on these properties that I have some sort of control over. So that means that if a town did not comply with the Fair Housing Act, prepare the plans and take the actions necessary to meet their constitutional obligation, a developer could, uh, just as an example, develop a multifamily building or a large project in a single family neighborhood where you would normally not want that kind of thing. Um, so the borough has prepared fair housing or fair share plans in the past. In 20 Okay, well, this presentation was never updated. In 2016, you entered into a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, and what that settlement did is it's established how many housing units you had to create, and you would meet that obligation at the project that's now called the Nell, and through the updating of the um, redevelopment plan in the downtown to make sure that any redevelopment in the downtown that created housing included affordable housing. And so these affordable housing plans and rules basically operate on 10-year cycles. So the last cycle technically started in 2015, which is why we are now again having to deal with affordable housing. Please go to the next slide. So, like I mentioned, COA used to make the rules and enforce the rules. They failed at doing so for about 15 years between 1999 and 2014. In 2015, the courts took over, and in 2024, the state legislature took action to replace COA and create a new system for complying with affordable housing. So the governor signed a bill last March 20th, 2024, uh, creating a new set of rules for the creation of affordable housing and preparation of affordable housing plans. And one of the requirements of that rule was that every town had to adopt a plan to meet their affordable housing number by June 30th, which you did by adopting your planning board, rather, adopting a housing plan on June 23rd. Any redevelopment plans or ordinances necessary to implement those plans have to be adopted by March 15th of 2026. So one of the requirements in that ruling or that bill that was signed in 2024 was that the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, the DCA, was tasked with determining or estimating how much affordable housing every town would have to create based on a long-standing formula. And for Dunellen, uh, the state determined that you had to create a realistic opportunity for 23 affordable housing units to be created by 2035. And it also required you to provide a funding a funding source and a program to rehabilitate existing substandard homes in Dunellen that are occupied by income qualified, low and moderate income households, up to 79 units. So it's not that you have to make sure that 79 units are rehabilitated, but you would have had to fund the rehabilitation, have enough funding for rehabilitation of 79 units. Please go to the next slide. Now, luckily, uh, the rules have mechanisms for towns to reduce those obligations. In a town like Dunellen, which is largely built out, this is particularly helpful. So there's something called a vacant land adjustment, and what that vacant land adjustment is we do an analysis of how much actual vacant land is in Dunellen, and vacant being defined as undeveloped and unused, and to make an assessment based on a certain rules and constraints as to how much affordable housing a property could accommodate. So there was only one property that we identified in our analysis, and that was the 130 South Second Street redevelopment site that was designated as an area in need of redevelopment last year or the year before. We determined that that would accommodate up to 6 affordable housing units. Now, there's another piece of the legislation that has been subject to a lot of debate and numerous interpretations, and that piece is a section of language that says that any town that gets a vacant land adjustment has to create a plan that provides for uh, uh, that provides mechanisms for creating a number of units equal to 25% of um, the adjusted prospective need. And nobody really knows what adjusted prospective need means. But what we've done is we've prepared a plan that would satisfy the most extreme versions of that interpretation, which is the assumption that the adjusted prospective need is this thing that has historically been called the unmet need, which is the prospective need assigned by the state minus the number of units that we determined you could create through the vacant land adjustment, which is called the realistic development potential, RDP. And that would be 5 units. So rather than having to plan for 23 affordable units, we have to plan for 11 units, which is 6 units from the vacant land adjustment plus 5, not 11, plus 5 units from that 25% rule. So plan for 11 units, not 23. We also were able to do a structural condition survey in which your construction official was able to drive around town and take a visual survey of how many dwellings in town actually are in substandard condition based on exterior assessment. So that was done in March, and we were able to bring down the uh, rehabilitation obligation down from 79 units calculated by the state down to 21 units. So that means that the borough only has to ensure the funding of enough to funding to rehabilitate 21 units in town that are existing substandard condition occupied by income qualified persons. Next slide, please. So how do you create affordable housing? So the way that Dunellen has been creating affordable housing is through inclusionary development. And what that means is that anytime anybody does a redevelopment in the downtown, they have to provide 15, a certain number of units have to be affordable. So if their units are rental, which they typically are, it's 15% of those units have to be affordable. If they're for sale, then 20% have to be affordable. Other options to provide or create affordable housing is to support group homes like the ARC or United Way that provide special or housing for people with special needs. If a municipality has available land or excess funds, they could use that land and funds to create housing where instead of doing the inclusionary formula where just 15 to 20% of the housing in a project is affordable, you could provide land or money to make sure that there's one property where all of the units are affordable. That is challenging to do in most communities. Most communities don't have the funds to do that. There's up to 25% of the vacant land adjusted number, so 6 units, up to 25% of that can be met with what are called bonus credits. What that really means is that um, certain number of the affordable housing units in your plan can be counted twice. So if you break that down, of the 6 units that you have to create through the vacant land adjustment, you only really have to create 5 affordable units. One of them is this bonus credit, where one of those 5 units is counted twice. The rehabilitation program that you have to operate is funded typically from development fees. You just have to ensure that a pool of money is available, that a qualified homeowner or renter can um, uh, apply to the program that the town operates, and that the funding will be available to fulfill their application to rehabilitate their housing. The typical amount for per unit for a rehabilitation program is 25,000. That's normally what you need to actually have a functional program. And as I mentioned, you don't have to seek out those households. You just have to make sure that they could find the information to apply to the program. Next slide, please. So this map shows you where we are satisfying that 11 affordable housing units. And just remember, the 11 is made up of the 6 units that we determined could be created from 130 South 2nd, which, if you're hopefully not colorblind, is that red property on this map. And the remaining 5 units of that 11 a unit requirement is being satisfied by a continuation of the enforcement of the downtown redevelopment area, which has, if it was to be fully built out, it has sufficient capacity to continue to meet your third round affordable housing obligation and your fourth round, and may continue to be helpful and useful to you in the fifth round. Depending on what your fifth round number may be, which in the fifth round, of course, would start in 2035, because as I mentioned, they run in 10-year cycles. Next slide, please. There's other pieces of the housing plan that we have to create. So we have to have an assessment of the demographic and economic conditions in town and use available data to project employment and population changes over the next 10 years. With a compliance plan, as was just as I described, it's you have to identify the number of units that we're required. So we're required to provide 11 units, and how we're going to meet them. We're meeting them in the downtown redevelopment area and the 130 South 2nd Street redevelopment plan area. We have to demonstrate that the plan is compliant with the state redevelopment plan, as well as with the regional sewer service plan. And then there's another piece of the plan that is anybody able to tell me for sure that we have the copy of this? Because it sounds like there may be an issue with whether we have the spending plan available for me to project. I don't know who's projecting this right now, but if you're able to pull up the spending plan, just let me know.
Dan, Billy only has the presentation that's on the screen now.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. Well, that's okay. We'll have to figure that out. So I shared the spending plan prior to leaving DMR. I'm sorry that it's not on the available to. Can anybody tell me if the council members received copies, so at least I know if you have had the opportunity to review it? I also can't see you guys if you're gesturing with your hands.
I had the presentation. They were provided whatever was sent over to Lauren via, I believe, DMR Architects.
Okay. All right. So we may not be able to act on the spending plan tonight, but here's what I'm going to tell you about the spending plan. So the spending plan is a document that every town's required to adopt or approve It's approved by the governing body, and what it does is it states that the municipality expects to receive a certain amount of revenue into its affordable housing trust fund over the next 10 years, and that it will spend that funding accordingly to implement the housing plan and to meet certain other requirements. So, um, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is typically funded by development fees. Those are fees that are collected whenever a new dwelling or a new a mixed use or commercial building is constructed. And those funds that are specifically deposited into your Affordable Housing Trust Fund to be used for affordable housing purposes. So your spending plan projected a certain amount of revenue over the next 10 years based on certain assumptions. And it stated that you would um, allocate funds as necessary for what's called affordability assistance, and that is something that is required by the state. You're required to set aside. Currently, I think the rate is 30%, but I think that might be changed at some point. 30% of every dollar you've ever taken in has to be reserved for this affordability assistance, and that's the program that is usually something like security deposit assistance or down payment assistance for somebody moving into an affordable unit, just to make sure that they have the ability to at least get their foot in the door for that affordable unit, because people may not have the cash lying around to pay a security deposit, for example. And the rest of your funds can either be spent on creating affordable housing, funding your rehabilitation program, or um, uh, administrative costs, meaning my fees or your affordable housing attorney's fees, others fees that are involved in affordable housing process. And so what your spending plan said is you will comply with the affordability assistance requirement, and that you also have enough funding to fund a portion of your rehabilitation program. I think the number that we came out to is you could potentially fund up to 18 of the 21 units that are required in your plan for you to have the funding to rehabilitate. And here's where the resolution of intent to fund comes in, and that's a resolution that states that should there be a shortfall in affordable housing trust fund balances, that you will use other means to fund your affordable housing obligation. So, should you have the funding for 18 to rehabilitate 18 dwellings, and a 19th person comes in and you don't have money in your affordable housing trust fund to fund it, you will have to find some other source of funding to rehabilitate that unit. You can direct them to the county's program, because the county uh, currently at least operates a affordable housing rehabilitation program. Um, uh, but um, if that program is threatened by, for example, federal funding changes, because the counties tend to rely on CDBG grants from the federal government, then you would need to use something like one of the state's programs, or you may need to bond and then pay yourself back later, if possible, through a collection of development fees. So that's the spending plan. Uh, and unfortunately, I'm sorry that you guys don't have it. Since I'm no longer with DMR, I don't have it on me either. I thought that you had all had it. Um, any ordinances or redevelopment plans that need to be adopted to implement the plan, and we're really talking about the 130 South Second Street redevelopment plan, that would have to be adopted by March of 2026. And resolutions executing the plan, that's really just the resolution of intent to fund and your resolution endorsing the plan. You can go to the next slide now. Okay, so we've adopted the housing plan on June 23rd. Tonight we'll be endorsing the plan. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some of these other resolutions. So within 48 hours of the adoption of the plan, your attorney was required to and successfully did submit your plan to the state. So we're done in that respect. A developer or an interested party has a 2-month window to challenge your plan, which ends on August 31st. And that challenge can only be successful if it is successfully able to show that your plan doesn't meet your obligation, which I think we very well do. And I don't think that that'll be an issue. It's in the past, it was a lot easier for developers to just say, I have a site, you should have included my site in your plan. I don't think that that's going to be the same world that we live in this time. And just for general knowledge, your affordable housing, after affordable housing is built over the next 10 years, you have a administrative agent. You have a contract with a group called CGP&H, and they're very good at what they do. They make sure that the people going into the affordable housing in town are actually qualified to do so, and to make sure that the money going between the town and the projects is done so appropriately. Any development in the plan, and we're really just talking about 130 South 2nd Street, has to just because it's in the plan doesn't mean they could start digging right now. It means that they still need a redevelopment plan from the town. Then they still need to provide a plan that complies with the redevelopment plan. They need to come to the planning board for review and comment as any other applicant would. So that's the good news, that just because something's in your plan doesn't mean it's going to be, built tomorrow. I think the next slide is just opening up to questions and comments. So why don't we just go to that? Thank you. And I'll open it up.
We'll open the floor to council first to ask Mr. Halbin any questions pertaining to the presentation. Mr. Halbin, I would ask, there's a document on our website that we had to do clearly for transparency and compliance purposes.
Yeah.
Borough of Dunellen fourth round housing element and fair share housing. Would that have the spending plan in it?
Let me take a look. I think I don't know that it would, because we had to send it separately. So it may be that there was something. I don't know. Well, let me see here. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it.
Okay. So we'll leave the council to the floor to ask Dan questions pertaining to the presentation that he's just made. Dan, is there a deadline for submission of the spending plan?
No, it's there's not. It's historically you try to do it as close to the adoption of the plan as possible. The rules, the fourth round rules, and the guidance that came from the courts on timing for everything were a little sloppy, and it's been a little bit unclear about what's exactly expected. But I think that it's a lot of towns are adopting them later. I think it's
Okay, so for purposes of this evening's meeting, we meet our obligation should council move forward, and then the spending plan can present it on August 7th council meeting.
That's right. Yeah, I think that that's fine. I think that that's appropriate. I want to make sure everybody sees what the plan is before it gets.
So we'll track down on where that miscommunication was between DMR and in your transition to TN. But we'll get our hands on it and it'll be dispersed appropriately and publicly presented. So thank you, Dan.
Yes.
Council, any questions for Dan? Councilwoman Lance?
Yes, I do have a question about the vacant lands or vacant lots, as you had mentioned. So are we meeting our affordable housing criteria, I guess, in our downtown redevelopment area, or are we looking at other vacant lots throughout the town?
No, so all of our affordable housing obligation can be met from the 130 South Second Street site should it be redeveloped, or should a redevelopment plan be adopted and then it's subsequently redeveloped. And then the balance is this 5 units uh, additional that where the plan addresses is being met through the downtown. And just for a little bit of context on that 5 units. So historically, when a town got a vacant land adjustment, there is a very open-ended requirement that a town had to provide. A town had to make sure that the number that came out of the vacant land adjustment, so in our case, 6 units, had to be created within the 10-year housing plan cycle. And then anything excess of that, meaning the difference between, in our case, 3 units signed from the state and the 6 units that we got out of the vacant land analysis, had to be accounted for through passive means, meaning it could usually meaning overlay zoning, where uh, if a commercial use, for example, or industrial use no longer serves its industrial or commercial purpose, then the overlay zoning would kick in and require multifamily with affordable housing. Now, in the past, unfortunately, that unmet need was enforced unevenly across towns, where some towns had to zone for every unit of that unmet need. So in our case, it would have been 23 minus 6. We would have had to plan for every 23 minus 6 is 17. You would have had to plan for all 17 units. But so some towns would have had to do all 17. Other towns would just kind of be like, do what you can. And the new rules made it a uniform rule that said you just have to plan for at least 25% of that gap. So the 25% of the 17, which, and you round up, is 5. So that's sort of the long way of explaining that this and continued enforcement of the downtown redevelopment plan is sort of our form of the overlay zoning, the passive form of zoning that, should somebody in the downtown want to redevelop their property, obviously they can continue to do so, and they will provide affordable housing units toward that will probably be, over the course of the next 10 years, in excess of 5 units, just based on the success of the downtown so far. That was a very long way to answer your question. Did it answer it satisfactorily?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would note that the obligations that we've been able to meet and what we have to meet in the new and the fourth round, I think we're in a good position to keep where we're developing these projects in the redevelopment zone, that inclusive of affordable housing maintains where dense living should be around transit and in the downtown, versus some towns are having the conversation of, how do you knock out forestry? How do you do more layovers in single family zoning? Dunellen, we're keeping it where it makes most sense in the downtown, where it makes sense for people to be living and shopping in a more dense population, and respecting that we have neighbors that neighborhoods that have single zoning and maybe duplex zoning, like a 2-family, and we're respecting that in those zonings. So I think for us as a municipality, for our small town quaint charm, this respects that. And so thank you to DMR for the efforts, and the team at McManaman, Scotland and Bound. Am I pronouncing every name that's in there? MSMB, to getting us to this point where we're keeping it within our redevelopment zone. Because I think we'd be having an entirely different conversation if we were sprawling out to single family zoning. I would definitely be in opposition to that. So I think this is a good plan. Council, any other questions before we hand this out over to the public? Okay, we'll open the floor to the public to ask any questions to Mr. Halbin. We just ask that you please state your name and address. Well, Dan, I think you did a pretty good presentation, so thank you. If there's no further comments from the public that are either in chambers or online, we're going to close that portion. Okay, without hearing any, we're closing the portion of this presentation, and I know there's subsequent resolutions on this agenda related to this. So, Mr. Halvin, thank you. I just ask if you can stay online just in case as we get to the resolutions, any additional questions come up throughout the process.
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 on the agenda is our sewer utility conversation for the evening. This presentation will be done by McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman. It was right in front of me, as I said too earlier. I didn't even look down. I'm happy. And NW Financial. So I'm actually going to come out to the audience on this one. So welcome to the floor, Francie, Dan Marianello from NW Financial, and they'll introduce themselves. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Francie McManaman, Scotland and Bauman. We serve as special, I don't need this yet, but thank you. We serve as special counsel to the borough in connection with a potential sale of the borough's wastewater system. So the borough started this exploratory process back in March with a presentation providing an overview of the process of a potential sale of the borough's wastewater system. That was followed by action in April that the Borough Council took, authorizing the issuance of a request for bids under the Public Utilities Law for the sale of a potential sale of the wastewater system. On April 25th, 2025, the request for bids was issued. As required by the Public Utilities Law, it was published. Notice of the request for bids was published for 6 consecutive weeks. On June 6th, 2025, the one bid was received in connection or in response to the request for bids. So that's just a very brief overview of the process that's brought us to this evening. I'm going to now turn it over to the NW team to provide some more detail on the process.
Yep. Thank you, Francie. Dan Marinello from NW Financial Group. Good evening, everyone. So we were brought on to both assist with the process of going through the sale process, and then also with looking at the results of the sale and making recommendations. So I'm going to go through just a real brief overview of Dunellen system itself. A couple of major points up there. It's 87,000 feet of sewer mains, 335 manholes, 3 pump stations. Not a big system in the world of municipal sewer systems, but certainly, obviously, as important as it gets for Dunellen, with 3 major pump stations, as mentioned. The system is managed currently. We obviously own the system. The borough owns it. PARSA, Plainfield Area Regional Sewerage Authority, has managed this system for us, along with helping to process the sewage to get through to the Middlesex County Utilities Authority, which is where the wastewater gets treated. The system manages, over 160 million gallons of sewage in a year. And just to set the stage, the current rate, as you can see on the screen, is $365 a year. For single family, multifamily, and other residentials are per units within those buildings. And then the non-residential commercial is $4.25 per 1,000 gallons, which is also have a minimum of $365. That's the current rate structure. And I know that it has increased slightly over the last year or so. That's where it is today. Why requesting bids for the sewer system? I know back in March, there was a presentation by staff to discuss why we were going out there. There's these 4 potential bullet points on the screen are typically why towns go out to look at selling the sewer systems or water systems for that matter. Aging infrastructure is a big one. Obviously, everyone can relate to that. Any system such as this with pipes as old as they are going to have significant capital improvements. Those capital improvements are very expensive. When looking at trying to manage the cost of those capital improvements just within the small community, it gets expensive. So one of the goals looking to sell the system would be to allow those capital improvements to be spread across a much larger user base, which is what the owners or potential buyers would be able to do. Potential financial benefits, obviously a big reason to go out and look for potential sale and partners on this. And what you would do by the process of selling the system requires you to take the proceeds of the sale and use those proceeds to pay off debt. First, have to pay off the debt within the sewer utility, of which there's about 2 million. And then the remaining amount would go to pay off any general obligation debt, other debt that the borough has within its general fund. Rate stability, obviously another big reason, trying our best to keep rates at an affordable level for the residents in Dunellen, but at the same time, understanding that costs of operating this system and everything is rising, but especially within the sewer structure. Most of these things, to give you an example, even just buying equipment to, purchasing of equipment in one system that has, 20,000 residents in its community is a lot easier to accept than a community that has, 8 or 9,000. So the impact is much more expensive in smaller systems. And then long-term risk mitigation, any potential environmental or financial risk that may come up, you always look to see if there's an opportunity to push those risks over to a private entity that does this all the time. Fortunately, here we don't have any real environmental risks that we've been dealing with, so that piece of it is not as important as really as the financial ramifications of it. So then the bid came in, as mentioned by Francie. We received one bid. That's important, obviously, when you're looking to sell a system, in a competitive process. You hope to have more than one bid. Competition breeds better pricing. We received one bid. New Jersey American Water. Many might be familiar with New Jersey American Water since they run the water system here in Dunellen and in many other communities. Just to put a couple of the bullet points that were included in their bid about the number of communities that they service, and obviously they understand Dunellen very well, of course, since they've been here in the water system. The bid itself had three main components among many others, but the real important ones are listed above. Purchase price of $5.5 million. It included spending $2.5 million in capital improvements over the first 5 years. I mean, that's important, as we had identified some things that we felt needed to get done. And so they committed to putting that kind of capital improvement in. However, there are many more capital improvements that will need to get done. This was just part of the bid that they submitted to us. And the bid, then when it came in, you have to accept the bid as it comes in. It's not a negotiation. So there's not an opportunity to go back to them and try to work with the price or change the capital improvements or change the rate structures. Their bid is their bid, and you either have to accept it or reject it. Included in their bid was a 7-year straight rate structure, 10% increase in year 1, 0, and then 3% out through year 7. Modest increases. However, they certainly do impact the price that they provided to us. And we'll get into rates in a later date, but it's important to know that that's the bid, and it was either an acceptance or a rejection of that structure. I keep hitting the wrong button. So just a real quick on the rates. $365 is a low rate. I know everyone has a different, opinion of whether or not it's low or high. Everyone's incomes are different. One of the ways that in the sewer utility that you look upon whether or not the cost of sewer is an appropriate one, too high, too low. One of the ways that people look at it is a percentage of the median income within the community. In Dunellen, we call it the bill to income ratio. If the median household income is $84,000 and your sewer rate is $365 a year, you're at 0.43% of your income going towards your sewer bills. New Jersey American Water provided within their bid, just so that we have it as a baseline, the majority of their customers are at about 0.74% of income to sewer bills. That can get much higher than that, as we've seen in other communities. It just so happens that happens to be New Jersey Americans' average, but there are many communities where that is much higher. We wanted to share with you a few of the other communities and their rate structure. So Dunellen, as I mentioned, 365, South Plainfield's 400 a year. Manville, which was recently sold, is at a $220 residential flat fee and a usage charge of $4.03 per 1,000 gallons. So if you're looking at that, it's the 365 in Dunellen versus the 498 in their bill in Manville. Boundbrook, when you use their residential flat fee of $62 plus the residential usage charge of $6.59, you get an average estimated bill of about $516. There is a residential unmetered. There are some unmetered residences in Boundbrook, and they got a flat fee of $489. Somerville's ordinance is a flat fee of $384. In addition to the flat fee, you have to pay a user charge of $3.47 per 1,000 gallons and a purchased wastewater charge of $5.21, which is related to the treatment of the sewer. So their combined annual bill is $982. I will tell you, and even trying to come up with real comparative analyses on what other communities charge in sewer versus Dunellen, it's not an easy thing to really come out with. Every town does it very differently. There's one town we're working in right now where there is no separate bill for sewer. It's just in your taxes. The cost of the sewer system is an appropriation in your budget, and then it gets charged in your tax bill. So you're really paying as a percentage of your assessment, not based on your usage. So there really is a number of different ways that communities bill sewer. Obviously, if you have sewer billed based on your water usage, it really levels the playing field with that you're being charged for what you're using. In Dunellen, just to give you an example, your flat fee of $365 a year is equivalent to $4.25 per 1,000 gallons, up to, I think it's 89,000 gallons a year in usage, which is slightly higher than the average person. The average person in today's world uses about 69,000 gallons of water a year. So if you wanted to take any of these rates, $6.59, for example, in Boundbrook, and your own home, the typical home is about 69,000 gallons a year. And that's the usage that we used to estimate these bills. Just in summary, again, we're looking at it financially, but really in its entirety, the net impact on the sale of the sale to the budget in Dunellen was generally limited. And I say that because the $5.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but it needs to be used to pay off debt. And when you pay off debt, it's not as if you're getting a $5.5 million injection into your general budget. You're paying off debt, which then decreases your budget expenses going forward as you would have paid off debt, right? Your debt service is an annual line item in your budget. By using the $5.5 million to pay off debt, you're reducing that debt service number annually. So it's not a true one-to-one in that sense. So we really looked at it as to what is that impact on an annual basis to the borough. And it wasn't, in our opinion, it wasn't as strong as we would have liked it to have been. The sewer utility, in addition to paying for all of the sewer costs that you have within the system, there's obviously shared costs that the sewer utility takes on, staffing and other costs within the Dunellen General Fund that are within the sewer utility, your CFO and other staffing that gets shared. Once you sell the utility, those shared costs are no longer shared, and they come back into your general fund. So any costs that are like that go to offset the savings you would have had by lowering your debt service. And that was really the financial analysis we did. The sewer rates and the rates that were projected by New Jersey American, the truth is that the sewer rates are they're going up in their projection because they're doing the work, because they're looking to make a profit. And so they're looking to increase rates in order to get to that point. the goal of this system is not necessarily profit, it's to make it work and be safe and be there as a reliance of a system for years to come. So capital improvements is enormous in what's going to end up being the results of whatever rates the Dunellen is going to end up charging for its customers. But it's something that's going to have to be reviewed. Ongoing operating and treatment costs are also increasing. The Middlesex County Utilities Authority manages your wastewater treatment, and each year their costs are going up. So it's a system where in Dunellen, as I mentioned, with your $365, it's a really low rate. And the borough has kept rates in the sewer system low for a long time. And what you're starting to now see is because of the cost increases, because of capital improvements that are going to happen, there is going to have to be a review of the rate structure that you have within the borough in order to make sure that you are going to be able to treat and manage the sewer going forward. Whether or not that was with a sale or not with a sale was the determination, was the review that we did along with the rest of the project team, which included, your consultants and staff. It was to reject the bid, review the rate structure that we have currently to see and determine what it might be to take this on ourselves. The system has been managed and run very well by Parsa, and the future capital improvements are going to have to be done. So we're going to go back and look and review those that rate structure. It was good to go through the analysis though, because it definitely gave us a chance to see what the market is for the system. I will say that it may or may not be as true a market number as you would think because we only got one bid. It would be nice to see more of them come in. There are more than one buyers of municipal systems out there. So, but it was good to see what they felt was the value of it and where they thought rates would need to go. But in the end, it was the recommendation of the team to reject the bid and now go back and review the structure ourselves. So I'll be happy to take on any questions. You have any?
I guess I have one question. I don't know if you can answer this, but do you have any ideas of why we only had one bid? Is that typical? What do you think the reason?
Well, I can answer that if you want. I mean, it's more of a legal question. I'm not sure why we didn't get, there's at least 3 bidders out there. One chose not to bid at all. We did not hear from them at all. Another one, Veolia, which is formerly Suez and United Water, they sent a letter in and determined that they chose not to bid. They felt that the bid parameters were such that was either too stringent, or they felt that the Board of Public Utilities was not going to allow them to stick to that rate structure. We felt that they misread the bid in that way. Of course, the BPU has ultimate say on where rates need to go. Did I say that right, Francie? I don't want to step on the lawyer's toes, but that's exact. I mean, so they sent the letter in and said they wouldn't be bidding for those reasons.
2
Yeah.
questions. One, the rates in which American Water proposed, the 10, 0, 333, and then what was that?
10, 0, and then 5 years of 3%.
That necessarily doesn't have to hold true. They can still increase beyond that, right? That's the understanding, or would they have to stick to those percentages?
They would have to stick through those percentages unless the BPU determined otherwise. You still have to go based on the BPU's determination, which they review each year and approve rate increases.
Okay, so they could still feasibly bring that 3% year over to them and say, we really need a 10% and BPU can approve it.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. At any given point, if council decides that we want to continue maintaining ours and we go through the analysis, and let's say within the next 5 years, we do significant improvements, does that increase the value of our system to then consider going out to bid and hopefully other entities
Right.
bid on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
any investment, and I'm sure we're going to determine that there are real capital improvements that need to get done. So once you look at that, you will be increasing the value of the asset.
So I guess the argument could be is that we could always go back to analysis and see if we need to rebid, if that is the option. Any other council members have questions or statements to legal counsel or our financial analyst? Okay, we'll open the floor to the public for any questions. We just ask that you please state your name and address strictly to this item on the agenda.
Bob Snyder, Executive Director for Plainfield Area Regional Sewage Authority. Just to go a little bit further into your question about capital improvements into the system. You have to keep in mind that, yes, it will raise the value of your system, but not so much in their eyes. Any of these private equity or private investment firms that are purchasing the systems because they're eligible by BPU standard to make between 7 and 9% return on their investment, capital investment, and they can recoup the purchase price. So overall, while you might think that would be beneficial in thinking about it, hey, we're making it worth more. At the end of the day, it's not to the public or to the residents, if you will. I will commend the professionals for keeping an open mind throughout this process. And I will just say that PARSA remains steadfast in providing the best and most technology and everything that we can for the residents of Dunellen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder, and we appreciate the relationship and partnership we have with PARSA. We do appreciate it. And any other members of the public have any comments or questions, please state your name and address.
Homer Mosley, 113 Pearl Place, and then I'd like to say a couple of things. You did address some of them in terms of, possibly caps on the rate increase. Because as New Jersey Water, as a public utility, is subject to New Jersey. What about other private bidders? Are they subject to the same constraints by the? Okay.
Yes, I believe we are too, based upon the BPU
Okay.
standards.
The other thing I thought about too was this whole concept of having the sewer bills incorporated. I think I had this discussion once before, incorporated into our tax bill, because then it becomes a deduction as part of real estate taxes, as opposed to, being separate. So, that's something that I thought about.
Well, we can address that question. Our CFO is here and he's been here for many years. It once upon a time was within our municipal budget. When Governor Christie did the 2% cap, budgets were hemorrhaging, and the decision was made to create a sewer utility in which this fee was created, or tax, if some people want to call it too, to take it outside of the municipal budget. Otherwise, there would have to been other decisions made in terms of personnel, other capital improvements we would have to be making on like roads and other projects. So it once was, but I think once it's out, it's the best that it's, and personally, policy wise, would be staying out, because then you're look around the room on who we're letting go on other quality services in the municipality.
Okay. And I guess one of my other concerns is that I know one of the objective is to pay down debt. I have some concern in terms of paying down debt over here, increasing debt over there. So I think that's something that really needs to be monitored. In other words, if by using this, let's say if we went through this exercise and actually decided to accept a bid from someplace to pay down debt, capital debt, I would hope that the council would be very mindful in terms of not paying down over here only to increase debt somewhere else.
Fully understand that point, Mr. Mosley.
Okay, and then again, as a senior,
Not a senior, you're my age, I thought.
Yeah, I wish. But anyway, I'm always concerned about, the seniors who are who a lot of them are on fixed income. And so therefore, any increase, no matter where it's at, hits pretty heavily upon the senior population. That's all.
Understood. And I believe in our current ordinance under sewer utility, I believe there is a freeze at some point for seniors. In which with American Water, had we gone, that was one of the other variables we considered was the only people, the seniors that were within that program currently would qualify. Anybody aging into that population that would have previously qualified would no longer qualify. So you would get the increase regardless. Sorry, Dan, did I steal your thunder? Okay. Okay. Any other members of the public? I saw Mr. Best standing up.
Jeff Best, 419 Madison. If I'm looking at the numbers, correctly, it looks like they were, New Jersey American Water, you put about a $2,500 investment into the town per residence, per residential unit. So the question would be, how would they intend to recoup this amount of money?
Well,
Look at the purchase price, then capital improvement. If we were to do it ourselves with the same amount of money into a capital improvement, we'd be looking at approximately $1,000 per residential. At some point, this for-profit business is going to attempt to recoup costs, even if we cap their rates that they can increase for 7 years. At the end of 7 years, something else is going to happen. These costs somehow. So, while I can see the benefits of selling the sewer system, I have a question whether a for-profit business is going to end up being better for the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Any other members of the public pertaining to this item only on the agenda, whether in chambers or online? Please state your name and address. Okay, without hearing any, we will close that portion for discussion, and we have, yes, we do need to take action. So we have two options for this evening. One is an introduction of an ordinance that I believe Francie has in place, and that ordinance would be to accept moving forward to a referendum to place on the November ballot and let the residents of Dunellen choose, or there's a resolution to reject the bid and maintain the sewer utility as we currently stand, knowing that we would be moving forward to subsequent months of doing an analysis. If you were to ask me, I would do the resolution in rejecting the bid and maintaining the sewer utility. So those are our two options. Do we have the resolution number and the ordinance number?
Ordinance number would be 2025-17. And then the resolution number we could add for 276.
Can I do that now on the floor?
Yeah, we'd have to amend the agenda to add that specific ordinance or resolution.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Is there a motion and a second to reject the bid and to maintain the sewer utility
I move
under
it.
resolution 276?
Move it.
And
Second.
Rios.
I heard Albertson, I think. And let's do a roll call.
We're seeing now.
Albertson. Okay, and then let's take a roll call.
Mrs. Albertson? Yes. Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you to the team. We look forward to the future presentation. Hopefully we can hit the ground running sooner rather than later, so council can get their heads around that and the public has the opportunity to see that presentation. So I think based upon approving that resolution to reject the bids, we no longer have to consider the introduction because we effectively rejected it. So who will kindly notify American Water if we have to? Thank you. Thank you. Always best from the legal team.
I'll
Get
see
home safe,
resolution.
everyone.
Good tomorrow.
Good. Okay. Should we take a root? Okay. I was debating a recess, but let's just chug along, right? Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda is the approval of our meeting minutes, our regular meeting of June 16th, 2025. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios.
Are there any comments, additions, or redactions to the meeting minutes as they currently stand? Without hearing any, can we take a roll call, please?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance,
Yes.
Mrs. Rios,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund,
Yes.
and Mr. Vandermark.
Okay, thank you.
Say yes. Vander-
Mr. Vandermark, Councilman? He's unmuted. Okay, so
so. Okay,
just noted.
not here.
Okay. Moving on, we have item number 5, the introduction of ordinances. This evening, we have 2025-15. Okay, Councilman, is that you? Councilman Vandermark?
What's that?
Can you give us the vote to the floor on the approval of our meeting minutes on June 16th?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. We have your vote. 2025-15 and 2025-16. This evening, we do have Sandy Galatio, one of our redevelopment council, legal counsel on the line. So as we go each one, you can kind of brief counsel on them. And then at the August 7th meeting, there'll be a more substance presentation, because for those who are new in the audience this evening, happy to see you all. It's some unfamiliar faces. Introduction of ordinances is just that. It's an introduction. There's no discussion. Maybe somebody will briefly discuss it just so it's summarized, and then it goes to a roll call, whether council wants to introduce it or not. If it is roll called and voted yes for an introduction, then at the next meeting within a 10-day period, it is publicly heard and possibly adopted, if not amended, and then reintroduced, et cetera. There's a process, but in between the introduction and the public hearing, which in this case for these two, if they're moving forward tonight, would be August 7th. You can pick up these ordinances at the clerk's office or find them online for your review. Okay, so with that, can I have a motion and second on 2025-15, an ordinance approving a 5-year tax exemption for a new multi-dwelling rental project to be constructed by Chelsea Builders LLC at 440 North Avenue pursuant to the 5-year tax exemption and abatement law in Chapter 115B of the Dunellen Municipal Code.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Albertson.
Sandy, if you're lying tonight, you are online. Can you briefly just brief counsel on this?
Yeah, yes, Mayor. This is the introduction of an ordinance granting a 5-year tax exemption for that property. That tax exemption allows the redeveloper to finance the property when there may be a shortfall. When there's a shortfall, the redeveloper submitted an application that was reviewed by the administration and its professionals, and the recommendation was to grant the tax exemption. And over the 5-year life of the exemption, the taxes gradually increase year to year according to a graduated schedule that is in the financial agreement that was included in the package. So there'll be a hearing on this at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Galatio. With that, we'll take a roll call.
Mrs. Albertson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lance,
Yes.
Mrs. Rios,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund,
Yes.
and Mr. Vandermark.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion on 2025-16, an ordinance to approve a long-term exemption and financial agreement between the Borough of Dunellen and 441 North Urban Renewal LLC?
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios.
Mr. Galatio, would you like to brief counsel on this one?
Yes, Mayor. This is a similar application for a tax exemption for a property in the redevelopment area at 431, 435, and 441 North Avenue. But it's being granted under a different law, the long-term tax exemption law, which is associated with properties in the redevelopment area. It's for a longer term, 30 years from the finishing of construction, or 35 years from the entry into the financial agreement with the applicant. Similarly, this provides for a what's called an annual service charge payment to the borough instead of regular taxes. And that is calculated using a formula based on the annual gross revenue that the project generates each year. And that also increases over time until the end of the exemption period. Again, there will be a full hearing with a presentation at the second reading of this ordinance at the next meeting. And there is a resolution later on the agenda related to this project, which amends the redevelopment agreement with the existing redeveloper to allow transfer to what's called an urban renewal entity, which is the type of entity that must be formed by the redeveloper in order to enter into this tax exemption and to provide for a community benefit payment by the redeveloper to the borough of $74,200. That's also on the agenda tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Glacio. So roll call, please.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
Councilman Vandermark? Okay, well, passes with those who are able to vote, correct? Moving forward? Okay. So as noted, both ordinances will be at the clerk's office and on the website for your review. So on the August 7th meeting after the presentation, you have the opportunity to ask
I
questions.
got disconnected.
Hello, Councilman. What,
I got disconnected.
okay, we're happy you're connected. We appreciate being connected to you. So 2025-16, did you hear sufficient information from Mr. Glacio?
Yes,
Okay, so that you voted yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That was your vote, yes, correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So as noted, August 7th, there will be a presentation in which public has an opportunity to address both items to our legal counsel and our financial team, as well as mayor council. Okay, item number 6 is resolutions. This evening, we have resolutions 261 through 275. And I'm going to ask that our municipal clerk, Mrs. Lauren Stats, read them out, giving us the opportunity to discuss them if there needs to be discussion. Thank you.
Resolution 261 is to pay the bills.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Albertson.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
Yes,
Resolution 262 is to amend resolution from June 2nd, 2025, number 233, to hire summer camp staff for the Dunellen Recreation Department.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Lance.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution number 263 is to hire summer tennis coaches for the Dunellen Recreation Department.
Move it, Albertson.
Second, Sigmund.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 264 is to approve a grant submission for the Second Street Improvements Phase 3 project.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Lance.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 265 is to approve a grant submission for the New Market Road Improvements Project.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios.
I do apologize. I let the 264 get ahead of me. So these were the grants that we were discussing based upon the NJDOT municipal aid, transit village, safe routes to transit. In conversation with CME, I'll go back to 264 really quick. I apologize. The recommendation and why it's on the resolution this evening is because we've gotten a grant for phase 1, which is Madison to Schwartz. Phase 2 is Madison to Washington, and then phase 3 would be Washington to Jefferson. So then in effect, one entire street would have been done through grant. So I think and it completes one street. Then now back on 265, reviewing some studies we've done, things that the mayor's Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Task Force has worked on within like the NJTPA and recommendations. The New Market Road Improvement Project, Mr. Miller, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically fixes the sidewalks and finalizes a sidewalk system on some areas that don't have sidewalks.
Right.
Okay, so that's what this grant is for. So in effect, accomplishing one of the plans that we have in place from one of the reports that were generated through studies that we've conducted. So that's why they're recommending this. The ones that they've recommended this evening are the ones they feel that are strongest suited in actually getting funding. So that's 265. I apologize that I let Second Street Phase 3 get past me.
Okay, I'll take a roll for 265. Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 266 is to approve a grant submission for the Madison Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and Jackson Avenue Lighting Improvements Project.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Lance.
So much like the decorative lighting we've had throughout the downtown and the ones that received grant-wise to complete all of Route 28, it's recommended that, and why we're moving it forward, to complete some of the side streets that shoot off in our redevelopment district that are like the entryway into our downtown, in effect helping complete the overall decorative lighting. So I think part of the process of doing some of these grants is just to make sure we complete some of the projects that we've kind of over time started. So that's why this one's being put forward.
Okay, I'll take a roll. Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 267 is to appoint Jaden Caraballo as a junior member of the fire department.
Move it.
Albertson.
Second, Sigmund.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Abstain due to my position.
Mr. Scott?
Abstain position of the fire department.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
Okay, well, thank you to the junior member, Carabello, for stepping up to the plate and volunteering. As we always note, our community is built on the backbones of volunteers, and that's how a lot of things get done in this community. We congratulate them, we thank them, we encourage more people to step up to the plate to volunteer for one of our many agencies, whether through municipal commissions, the fire company, rescue squad, OEM certs. We welcome volunteers and we encourage people. So thank you, Jaden, for stepping up to the plate.
Did you hear Mr. Vandermark's vote or no? Did he say?
I thought he voted yes. No?
Mr. Vandermark, resolution.
yes,
Okay. Resolution 268 is appointing crossing guards for the 2025-2026 school year.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Albertson.
Just for the record, Mr. Miller, Mr. Olson, this includes a crossing guard for Madison and Dunellen. We're adding one at that intersection. Okay, thank you.
Mrs.
Mayor's
Al-
Traffic and Pedestrian
Yes.
Safety Task Force should be very happy.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark. Mr. Vandermark?
Okay, moving on.
I got disconnected again.
Was that a yes, Mr. Vandermark?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
Resolution 269 is endorsing the borough's fourth round fair share housing element plan.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios?
Rios. Is this inclusive of the spending plan?
There's
Okay, okay.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 270 is to approve a sidewalk cafe license for DeLuca's Cafe.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios. Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 271 is approving a third amendment to the redevelopment agreement by and between the Borough of Dunellen and 1879 Morris Associates LLC and authorizing the mayor to sign assignment and assumption of redevelopment agreement for assignment of redevelopment agreement from 1879 Morris Associates to 441 North Urban Renewal LLC.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios.
As Mr. Galatio noted, this provides a community benefit contribution to the borough for certain streetscape and pedestrian safety infrastructure improvements related to the project. So this way, there's improvements to the streetscape, any pedestrian safety and traffic calming measures in the area that not only help the project, but also benefit the general community. We do believe it's part of the developers' corporate partnership, I guess you can say, to help the immediate area in need and make improvements, not just for themselves, but the community as a whole. So they've been kind enough to negotiate this, and it is a community benefit donation that is specific to streetscape pedestrian safety, which we know we both need in the downtown. So that's what this resolution is for, is that amendment.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 272 is conditionally designating Charles Fachaponte as the redeveloper of certain property designated on the borough tax map as Block 34, Lot 28, more commonly known as 620 Bound Brook Road, and authorizing entry of interim cost agreement.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Rios.
So what an interim cost agreement is you have an interested party who wants to develop their property, or a developer has bought a property and wants to develop it. This is Mr. Facciapani. He is a longstanding business owner and property owner in Dunellen, has family in Dunellen. He wants to develop his property at the location noted. So this, for those that don't know what an interim cost agreement is, basically sets up the structure for him to put into escrow funds and indicate that he wants to be designated the developer of his property so he can develop it. And so therefore the escrows cover the professional service costs that are in process of coming up with a project that makes sense and adheres to our redevelopment plan before a formal redevelopment agreement and presentation are made before council. So that's what this is.
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution 273 is to authorize a Chapter 159 for pedestrian safety enforcement and education fund.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Albertson.
Mr. Miller or Mr. Scott, or Lieutenant yourself too, if you want to address this. I know this is a grant that was provided by the state that I believe Sergeant Del Buono applied for. That's going to go to, as it noted, pedestrian safety and traffic safety enforcement. So anything else you want to add before council takes a vote?
15, yeah.
Okay.
All righty, take a roll. Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark.
yes,
Resolution number 274 is authorizing the award of a non-fair and open contract for planning services to address affordable housing in the borough.
Move it, Sigmund.
Second, Albertson.
So this is Harbor is our alternate municipal planner. With the transition from Dan to TNM, we are working now with Harbor, I guess assuming beyond our spending plan presentation. We're going to work with Harbor for the affordable housing elements moving forward on compliance matters and ordinances that might need to be drafted related to that before the end of the year. So that is why this is in place. So this way we can have a consistent planner. That's probably the best way I can put it.
No questions? Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark?
yes,
Resolution 275 is granting approval to the Dunellen Arts Inclusion and Culture Commission for the Adams Theater Company to produce plays in the park.
Move it, Albertson?
Second, Sigmund?
Okay,
Mrs. Albertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sigmund?
Yes.
And Mr. Vandermark?
yes,
okay, item number 7 is our council reports. Councilwoman Albertson.
I want to give a shout out to Alex Miller, Mayor Salento, Rich, and the DPW employees, Dunellen Fire Department, Police Department, Rescue Squad, and the Office of Emergency Management for the quick response and hard work these past few days. The fire department has responded to 32 calls for service in June, and they have a total number of calls for 2025 of 188. They had a hazmat call for five hazmat calls, 12 false alarms, 4 service calls, 2 EMS calls, 6 good intent calls, 3 fire calls. So brings it to a monthly total of 32. In addition to emergency responses, the fire department has attended several events and held several drills. So on 6/5 and 18, the probationary members continued in-house training. And on 6/6, they supported the Dunellen police and raised the flag for the torch front. They held a monthly meeting on monthly officers drill on 6/9. On 6/12, they attended the bike rodeo at Faber. On 6/18, they had a monthly instruction drill with the SCBA fit testing. On 6/21, they held their biannual street fair, and on 6/25, they had a meeting, the monthly meeting. They're happy to have a number of new residents continuing to join, and they invite people to come and join them. The new members are attending fire school right now, and if membership is open to everyone, 6 to 18 is a junior member, and full member is open to anyone over 18. Visit their website, www.dunellenfd.com, or email dfd@dunellenfd.com for more information. While they did do quite a few calls in June, they have already exceeded that number this week. They started operating their apparatus 6 p.m. on 7/3 and through the weekend. So between 7/3 and 7/5, they responded to 61 emergency incidents. Thank you all for what you've done and continue to do. In regards to the storm, if your American flag has been rendered unusable due to the damage from the storm, or if it's just unusable and you'd like to get rid of it, please drop it off at the American Legion, and they will ensure that it is properly disposed of. Flags can be dropped off in the building if someone's there, or on the front porch. There's a table there. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Dunellen Municipal Alliance because they held their annual Leadership Academy on June 24th. They had 30 high school students participating in team building activities and leadership training. Community Resource Officer Condit came and spent some time with them, the students, and interacted with them. It was a very rewarding experience for everyone. So look forward to seeing everyone at National Night Out when you'll get to meet some of these students when they're working. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Rios.
I didn't think I had one, but Dunellen Public Library. Don't forget to register for our summer reading event. Registration may be done by contacting us by email or visiting us in person. Also log into our website and check out our Facebook for great programs this summer. Buildings and ground report. The following parks had trees damaged to the July 3rd storm. Columbia Park had 2 trees, McCoy Park had 8 trees, Moorcraft had 2 trees, Gavornik Park had 1 tree, Washington Park had 4 trees. Public Works will be addressing these issues over the next week. And on a side note, Living Hope Outreach Church will be having their food drive giveaway this Saturday at 11 a.m. while supplies last. This event happens every second Saturday of the month. The church is located at 201 Whittier Avenue in Dunellen. Please bring your own bags. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Scott?
For DPW, they continue to routinely clean the downtown area and all parks and properties. Weekly lawn and landscape maintenance for the borough parks and properties. Maintain the ball fields, and they ran cardboard to the dump. And like everybody else on the 3rd, they had a nice busy day and continue through today. Crew was called in to help with road clearance after the storm and worked late into the evening. They continued to work on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 4th through the 6th. They collaborated with the crews from Rich's Tree Service, clear as many trees out of the way as possible, enabling PSE&G to access and start repairs of the utility lines. And the crew has been working tirelessly through the storm, and we're all grateful for their service. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Lance?
From the Recreation Department. Summer camp is in full swing. Right now, they have 50 children registered. Registration is open and ongoing, but you must register 3 business days prior to the start date. Campers so far have enjoyed a welcome luau, a 4th of July barbecue, and a trip to the Jersey Shore where they visited Jenkinson's Aquarium, the boardwalk, and the beach. Campers will be heading to the water park later this week. If anyone is interested in continuing to join, they can email the rec program coordinator Kelly Cedar at kcedar@dunellenborough.com. On Thursday, June 26th, Recreation Spring players enjoyed rec night at the ballpark at the Somerset Patriots Stadium. Players and coaches got to walk on the field prior to first pitch for a pregame parade and enjoyed fireworks after the game. Fall soccer registration will be opening up soon for pre-K through 8th grade. Last year, we had a record turnout. Keep your eye out for more soccer information. In the meantime, we are looking for volunteer coaches. So if you're interested in coaching this upcoming season, please contact, again, Rec Program Coordinator Kelly Cedar at kcedar@dunellenborough.com. And the Recreation Department also looks forward to helping the Police Department on National Night Out on August 5th. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Council President Sigmund?
Yes, I have been noticing a lot of those slow down, this is not a racetrack signs around town. It is exciting to see some of our work come to fruition throughout the borough. Also, heard a report back from Rome Pizza that they have started seeing the participants of the Walk to School Wednesday program come in and redeem their certificate for a slice and a soda. Also want to add my name to the long list of people thanking Alex Miller and the DPW, Police Department, Fire Department members, and Mayor Salento for all their hard work that wild and crazy night a few days ago. It took a while, but sounds like everyone's back to having their power. So thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman Vandermark, anything to report on this evening?
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Good to hear you, my friend.
I should be back in council chambers next month.
Look forward to it. Okay, my report for the evening. Did a storm recap. DPW will continue to clean up throughout the rest of this month, so please bring the debris of trees and stumps to the curb for collection. ASL recycling 95-gallon automatic side load bins for recycling have started being delivered today. Well, the past several days actually, right? Okay. If you do not receive your bin, please contact Borough Hall, and the administrative assistant will keep a record of any missing bins to ensure that residents receive them. As a reminder, the bins cannot be used before August 13th recycling collection, as the MCIA will still be using backload trucks until then, and we'll make sure we continue to update on social media, as well as let's do a few e-notifies and email blasts just so everyone's on the same page. Second Street DOT project, the mill and pave phase of the project was scheduled to start today. However, due to the extensive tree damage from the July 3rd storm, we're delaying the project to give our residents sufficient time to remove branches from the street, allowing our public works crew to remove them and prevent damage to the newly paved road. We should have a new scheduled date from CME and the contractor, Crossroads Paving, within a week. So look out for that information. Notices were delivered to the doors?
Yes.
Okay, and when updates come, they'll also be sent out to door to door. New Jersey American Water main, New Jersey American water main project. The water main has been installed on Lehigh Street. The next phase will be the installation of water services. New Jersey American Water has just started the water main installation on Walnut. They'll be replacing 85-year-old 8-inch water mains with 12-inch water mains. American Water has begun work on Pulaski Street section to complete it before the school opens in September. Anyone who needs to go to Faber for summer program can use Pulaski Street to access Walnut Street and then proceeds on to High Street. Alex, I do have a question. A note. I had a few residents that live on Walnut that were informed they were allowed out of their properties, but not allowed back in when they were notified that they'd be able to get in and out of their street to get to and from their homes. I just want to confirm residents are allowed to get access to and from their homes.
No, you're correct. They're supposed to have access in and out.
Okay.
That block is closed off. It's still open for the residents to come and go. Need to, and I'll make sure it's a message to the American.
Okay. Okay, thank you, because that was my next, could you coordinate efforts and improve the communication between contractors and departments? So allowing residents to get there, just because they were noticed that they can. So if they can't, they need to appropriately notice, but my understanding is they can, so let's make sure they can. A report from our engineer CME, the Washington Avenue street lighting project. A site meeting was held with PSE&G and the issues that were being viewed by PSE&G, like the down by St. John's where they didn't want to place the street lights. Well, they wanted to place the street lights, but they didn't want to put conduit underneath the sidewalk. They wanted to remove these nicely well-established trees. That issue's been resolved, so the trees won't go and the lights will go up, correct? Okay, which is nice. And I know our Shade Tree Commission will very much appreciate that. So the engineers are requesting a schedule from the contractor for the commencement of work, which will be very, very nicely done. The railroad culvert project on South Ave, which I know is a long time coming project. We're working with the I-Bank. They've requested that the engineering agreement be provided for that project, and CME is preparing it. The Army Corps has confirmed that their model shows the downstream system will have the capacity to take the flows from the project once they have completed their construction. So basically, as we all remember from several meetings ago, project was stalled based upon before we got to the I-Bank because with the Greenbrook flood control project happening along the Greenbrook on the north side of town, and us being closer to that project after 50 years, CME had to prove to the Army Corps that the water that would be flowing through the South Avenue culvert would not be impacting greatly the Greenbrook flood control project once that's up and running. So a plan has been put in place that we can continue with construction of the project, but the culvert that we will be building, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, it will be built, but it has to be shut until the Greenbrook flood control project is completed. So once that's completed, the project at the culvert can be opened up and everything can flow the way it's supposed to. Did I miss anything?
You're pretty much on that. The goal what they'll do is about restriction on one of the openings. So the new opening will be better than we have now, and eventually one of the other part of that flood condition project is in the Middlesex and over in Fall right out.
Got it.
So there'll be slight restriction. Better.
Understood. So I think we may be seeing the light, and I hope I didn't jinx us on that one. Which one? I think it was 1999, the culvert started. And then Greenbrook flood was 1973. It's the year my mom graduated. So, you know, sorry, Mom, but it's been a while. So CME continues to monitor the work being performed by Comcast, which several parts of the town are up and running. So that is good. CME's requested that the status of the New Market Road and Walnut Street intersection project from the county. As you know, we are trying to work with the county to get a traffic light at Walnut and New Market. They say it qualifies. So they've requested that from the Board of Commissioners that adopted resolution to accept the design contract. Once the contract is executed, they will hold a design kickoff meeting, which they expect to occur hopefully later this summer, early fall. So getting closer to that too. Second Street Phase 2 field surveys have been performed and the design of the project is underway. As we noted tonight, the following local aid applications have been submitted to the NJDOT for the municipal aid, improvements of milling, partial reconstruction surfacing of portions of Second Street between North Washington and Jefferson, and other enhancements such as storm drainage, driveway reconstruction, restoration, etc. That CME will be submitting on our behalf. Transit Village grant, the project generally consists of installation of decorative lighting along the first block of the streets intersecting North Avenue, State Highway Route 28, including Madison Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and Jackson Avenue, and including some sidewalk restoration and street trees. So that's nice. We love trees. Safe routes to transit. The project generally consists of improvements along New Market Road from South Washington Avenue to the shared municipal border with Piscataway, which includes the removal and replacement of existing deteriorated sidewalks, ADA ramp improvements, turf restoration, driveway apron restoration, and other related work. So hopefully we get that grant because we got the South Washington Avenue sidewalk restoration grant, which would be nice because they'll have two main corridors connecting us to another municipality that needs access to our train station, plus the residents that we currently have. In effect, completing what they call the last half mile, I think they call it, of getting to a train station. So that's it from myself this evening. Let's head over to our department head reports. Legal, anything, Mr. Robertson? I guess from legal, no news is good news. Thank you. Clerk, Registrar's Office?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Again, great job on the elections and how you handled everything with the moving around of, I said it the last time, but you deserve great kudos for how you handled it.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, DPW, Business Admin.
Thank you very much for our, during the storm, it was nasty environment, but you see the good side of things, but the fire department working all night, I mean, they go home and they go home. Police department all over the place. Homer, got rid of the building. We got out this car, showed up, they're on the scene. It's it is a good thing to see. Russian squad stepped up, helped out at the shelter, so and then when things were tough, you see good part of things. And all while this is going on, everybody left their homes and they had no power. There's no generators going on or whatever else. And also, Billy was on vacation. No one really knew it, but getting the message out, the mayor and I probably counted the 1,000 text messages over that stuff. It starts right from the top. So good to see everybody really moving and working. Public Works will continue picking up branches at least through the residents. If we come and clean up, it's just almost like we had a situation. We'll be back. We understand there's more stuff, but let's keep picking up and all.
Okay. We got a great team. Good job, everyone. Lieutenant, anything from PD? You're yielding your time to Homer. OEM, Mr. Mosley. Oh, thanks.
So
You're a comedian now too, huh?
Yes, why not? I'd like to echo the sentiment about the various departments. the PD, fire department, DPW, the rescue squad. Did I miss anybody? And of course, OEM. One of the things that this provides an opportunity to do is to look at this situation, because we actually did an exercise, a live exercise, and see how did we execute on our EOPs, our emergency operation plans. There's always a need for improvement, but I think, and I'll be coming forth with some recommendations regarding that. Again, I would like to especially thank Bill Scott, because he provided a command center and a EOC at his fire department. In fact, Bill took on the action of actually recording the impacts to the town so that we had a better picture. So thank you for that, Bill. I mean, that's something that usually OEM would be involved in terms of getting the common situational picture. So again, it's very important that we have some representations of departments at EOC, just for that very reason, so we could all look at the general conditions of the town. On some positive things, okay, again, I don't like to especially thank Chuck Lopez, who's acting as Deputy CERT Coordinator. He mobilized our CERT team, Denise Allen, Sharon Stewart, Ingrid Franco, as well as Chuck, to man the shelter, and also the rescue squad, which kind of maintained it till we got there. Also, I know it wasn't mentioned, but I'd like to mention the fact that, of course, Mayor, I thank you for your leadership, you and Alex. But I also like to mention the fact that the Carroll Fund came through. My next door neighbor at 109 completely lost their house. There's a family of 5, 3 children, a cat and dog, and of course the parents. The individual, the baby, was basically debris was taken off the baby. Luckily, God, intervened on this, because the baby just came away with a few scratches on his face.
Oh, thank God.
However, this family is, especially the kids, are especially traumatized because of the fact that they are special needs children. And one of the little boys keep on asking, when are we going home, Daddy? So, but Carol Fund, thank you, Terry. Carol Fund stepped up to that. We have some good news. Chuck Lopez has initiated a process based upon his presentations about CERT, that a number of residents have requested CPR training. So he's working with the library to see if we're going to be doing that on August the 6th. So stay tuned for that. We also have 2 residents as a result of Chuck Lopez again doing a presentation. We will have 2 residents that will be attending the CERT Basis Academy in Saraville. So that's good news, because we always use more CERT members. And I think that's my report. Is that my deputy here has anything to say? Okay, so
You're okay?
Yes. Okay, so again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley, and thank you for what you do. Rescue Squad, anything to report this evening?
In the month of June, we responded to 31 calls. One of those was for fire rehab, and we also in June had a fire rehab drill. 2 of the calls we responded to were motor vehicle accidents. We attended also in town the bike rodeo, the high school graduation, and the street fair. I'm also happy to announce that our squad received funding from the Verizon Foundation in form of a grant of $1,500. And thanks to the very hard work of the staff of Massachusetts office, The State Department of Health has finally agreed that we have the volunteer EMT training fund back.
Very nice. Thank you. And Alex, you guys are staying in communication in terms of transition. Good, okay. Okey doke, I don't see any other department heads here. Can't hear from fire just yet. We heard from your report. At this moment in time, we'll open the floor. Item number 10 on the agenda is public comments. We ask that those who are here in chambers or online, please state your name and address. Just so we don't cause confusion, I'll open the floor to people in chambers first. We ask that you please state your name and address. Without hearing that, we'll open the floor to the members joining us virtually. We ask that you please state your name and address and ask us your questions or make your statements. I will do one last general blanket for everyone who is here in chambers and online. Please state your name and address. If you have any questions or statements, we're all ears. Okay, without hearing any from the public, we'll close that portion of the meeting. We're moving on to item number 11 on the agenda, which is Resolution 277 for adjournment. Before we motion in second, August 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. is our next council meeting in these chambers, or you can join virtually. I hope people participate. So with that, can I have a motion in second on Resolution 277?
Move it, Sigmund.
Second on Lance. All in favor? Any nays? I'm waiting for that nay one.